This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the HTC Sensation 4G available on T-Mobile starting June 15th. So you might guess from the name, it's a 4G phone. That means it has HSPA plus 14.4 meg per second for download speeds. But that's not the most interesting thing about the phone. The most interesting thing is probably that it's the first dual-core Snapdragon CPU 1.2 gigahertz on the US market in a phone, and it's a QHD display. That means we've gotten bigger than 800 by 480 pixels finally, and now we've got 540 by 960 pixels on a 4.3-inch display. Now we've seen that resolution a few times, say on the Motorola Atrix, which had a 4-inch display, and that was kind of cramming a lot of pixels in. Sometimes text looked kind of small, hard to read. But when you have a 4.3-inch display, it's really just perfect. Whereas things sometimes look a little too big and blown up on other 4.3-inch screens running at the same resolution. This is just right. Everything looks sharp. It's not too small to read, and it's not blown up too large either. Other goodies include HTC software. We've got Sense 3.0 on here, and HTC MySense service as well. Now, Sense 3.0 isn't going to look strange to you if you're used to HTC phones with Sense, but you can see that they've added some cute little effects. If you go spinning like that, for example, you get the 3D spinning wheel. Might not be the easiest way to find things, but it's entertaining. It's kind of a 3D effect. They've updated some of their widgets. We've got a nice music player here. It's a photo gallery. We haven't set a photo album for that yet. Full screen calendar. Nothing new there. If you have email accounts, it'll load your email accounts in there. Your favorites for the dialer, of course, the Google search is right there. And your home screen with the beautiful weather. Now, weather actually makes sound now. You know, HTC is just nuts about the weather. They've always had the fanciest weather widgets since the days of Windows Mobile. So we have this, which looks a lot like what you're used to seeing. And if you tap on that, you get an animation with the weather forecast over here, and you can switch between cities, like so. And again, you get sound effects pretty much every time you turn on the screen and that widget is showing. If it's a sunny day, you just kind of get a nice little new age sound. I don't know why that is. Thunderstorms sound like thunderstorms. You get the idea. And if you don't like that, you can turn it off. And that was the It's a Sunny Day weather sound. And of course, with HTC Sense, if you want to see all the screens at once, you just tap on the home button when you're already home, and you get all of your screens. And if you want to go to any one of them, you just tap on it. It's your application launcher right here to look at your palette of applications, quick access to the phone, and this is some customizations for look and feel settings. Other than that, you have the standard Android capacitive buttons down here, fairly large earpiece, front-facing camera, and on the back we have an 8-megapixel camera with quick focus feature. And it's true, at least in good light, it takes photos much more quickly than your average autofocus camera phone. You're more likely to catch those quick-moving shots like your insane cat or your kid running down the street, whatever it is. Dual LED flash, fairly effective to illuminate more than just one person or item in the dark. Here's your speaker right here. Don't put your finger over it, it will muffle quite a bit. And you see we've got microphone holes all over the place here because HTC has noise-canceling microphone technology going on to help improve outgoing sound, and it does work. This really does do a good job of blocking out ambient noise for outgoing phone calls. On the side here's your micro USB port. Now this is one of those combo ports, and that means that you can also plug in an MHL adapter, which will turn this to HDMI out. And we're going to take a look at HDMI out in a bit. Unfortunately, that adapter, by the way, does not come in the box. I think they're about $20 if you can hunt one down separately. Your volume rocker right here. Power button up top. Headphone jack as well. And nothing on the side. Kind of obviously interesting and attractive pattern back, and no, this isn't one of those puzzle-like HTC phones that's difficult to open like the HTC Inspire, for example. This is a one-piece back, and it does pull off. And there is a little release down here, and you push that. And the cover kind of wraps around the entire sides of the phone. It's not just a back inset plate. And you can see, and we have photos of this on our website as well, it's really a shell that wraps around completely, and there's a whole lot of contacts and sensors here. And in fact, once you take the back off, the phone does not shut off, but it does turn off the wireless radio, because we imagine that there's shielding in here that's necessary for FCC approval, and they don't want you running the phone with the back off. In here you've got your SIM card slot. Here's your micro SD card slot. No need to pull the battery out to get to it, and T-Mobile includes an 8 gig card. good to have some storage there because unfortunately the phone only has 1 gig of available internal storage space out of 4 gigs total ROM. And that's because HTC has one of those protected signed bootloaders on this phone. Going forward, they're going to change that and allow you to actually amend the bootloader, and that large partition for storing the bootloader on the fly won't be necessary. This is a 1520 milliamp battery, which is a pretty decent capacity for a 4G smartphone with a large display. Obviously that dual-core CPU. We're still running battery tests on it, so you'll have to read our full review to find out just how good or bad the battery life is on this phone. Certainly it's got to be better than an LTE phone, though. We'll put the cover back on, but first we'll just take a look at the really interesting design. Everything is so exposed here. This is the power button. You can barely even see it without the casing over to indicate that. Very different. I would not want to drop this, by the way, without the cover on. However, I can tell you it's pretty sturdy when the cover is in place. We've already had a couple of little whoopsies, dropsies, and the phone has survived unscathed. In terms of protection, it's a little hard to see here, but this has slightly curved glass. It's the opposite of the LG G2X on T-Mobile, whose glass pops up a little bit from the edges or curves up. This one actually is inset a bit, and that's to protect the glass. This is Gorilla Glass, so it's already pretty sturdy and scratch resistant, but since the glass curves in, it's harder to shatter the display because what's going to hit first if you drop it flat are the edges of the frame. Now I'll compare the HTC Sensation 4G on T-Mobile with a couple of competing phones, and a good candidate would be the T-Mobile LG 2X in my left hand here. And you can see they're both 4.3-inch displays. The height is about the same, and the width is pretty close in terms of thickness. They're both slim phones, and they're both very nice looking phones. In fact, they have a somewhat similar design aesthetic. HTC goes for more curved surfaces, but we've got the soft touch finish and a couple of touches of metal on the LG to compete. And of course the LG has an IPS display which pops a little bit more. And now we're going to compare it to the Nexus S. This is Google's own pure Google phone right here, and the brightness is not cranked all the way up on this. This is set to auto brightness right now, so it could look certainly as bright as the HTC does. This guy has a Super AMOLED display, certainly more colorful. It's also a 4-inch display, so the phone is a little bit smaller, but surprisingly not that much smaller. HTC did a very good job of making Sensation compact and feel good in hand thanks to all these curved surfaces here. In terms of thickness, again, they're both thin phones. Next, for those of you who have the HD7, this is actually the HD7S that we've got right here on my left hand, but similar in terms, obviously, in fact, identical in terms of dimensions, so you can see the size difference if you've been rolling with an HD7 running Windows 7 on T-Mobile. Once again, both made by HTC, so similar design aesthetic, both very nice, both quite slim. This is HTC's new unlock screen, also part of Sense. You see these applications over here, you can just drag them to the ring. Say I want to launch the camera, I can just drag it right there without unlocking the phone. And you can see that's pretty quick. And focusing speed, shoot speed, it's very good. It's right up there with the Galaxy 2S. So the user interface on this, the HTC Sense software, greatly resembles the HTC Flyer. That's the HTC 7-inch tablet that we recently reviewed. This is running Android OS 2.3.3 Gingerbread. 2.3.4 would add Google Talk video chatting, so we're one version short, but of course T-Mobile includes Quick, as they like to do for video chatting, which works reasonably well. You can see that's pre-installed over here. They've also included Telenav, GPS Navigator. Of course, you can use Google Maps, T-Mobile TV, T-Mobile Mall, account management application, and that's about it. Now, we're not going to complain because a lot of carriers do like to put a lot of bloatware on here. You do get Adobe Reader on here, and you get Polaris Office Suite for viewing Office files. HTC has their own Facebook application, and we've got one loaded as well. Of course, you can load Twitter or use their social networking software. HTC has their Hub, which you've also seen by name in Windows phones, and that's something that you can access if you have an HTC Sense account. You can download more software from them, more themes, more sounds, and you can also use their convenience features. They also have an app called Mirror, which is pretty clever. It doesn't just turn the screen black so your phone turns into a big shiny mirror. What it does is it turns on the front-facing camera. Simple, clever, typical HTC. They're very good at that. HTC also has their own music player on board as well. It's fine. Google's new 3.0 Music Beta is also fairly compelling, so you can choose from either one. We've got Gallery on here for playing movies, and we have also got HTC's new streaming TV and video rental and purchase service on here called HTC Watch, and there's a widget for that as well. They don't have a huge selection to choose from just yet, but I'm sure it'll grow soon. Seems like every manufacturer has to have their own video store now. Since this does have a dual-core 1.2 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon CPU, performance is quite good on it. Quadrant scores are not that impressive. They're around 2,000, and Quadrant may also not know how to deal with this new CPU since this is the first phone on the market with that. Experientially, I can tell you the phone is quite fast. It can play 1080p video playback wonderfully, in fact better than some honeycomb tablets. It can play it out to HDMI, it can play 3D games, you name it. So we'll look at trailer here. It's a pretty high quality trailer. And the speaker is near max volume right now. It's okay, you know, HTC speakers haven't been always that impressive lately. It's but a little bit thin, but it has enough volume that you can hear it.
I swear to God, I could see myself ending up with this girl. Did you say what I think you just said? How about I take your number and we can
That looks absolutely great.
I got a business card in my pocket. What's this? A circle? Just tell her the truth.
And thanks to the QHD display, you've got full 16:9 resolution here, and that means no black bars for your movies, which is quite nice. It's a very nice, colorful, and sharp display as well. It may not be Samsung's Super AMOLED Plus displays, but it's quite nice, certainly. And it's also reasonably outdoor viewable, even in direct sunlight. Since this is running Android OS 2.3 Gingerbread, of course we have Adobe Flash Player on here, 10.3. It has no problem playing Flash videos, and we will check that out by going to YouTube's full site. And you can see we've got the standard HTC keyboard, one of my favorite keyboards for Android here. So now we're on the full desktop YouTube site. This is not the mobile YouTube player, and we've got the X-Men trailer loaded here. Playing small screen, and we're going to enlarge this to play full screen. Okay, and now we're playing the X-Men trailer full screen. And this is real Adobe Flash. And this is playing at 480p. Usually choosing anything above that, we start to get data transfer stalls. And we're doing this over T-Mobile's 4G HSPA Plus network, where we have pretty solid service in this area, so throughput's usually pretty good. And now we've just gone to max volume, as you can see. That's looking pretty darn good for mobile YouTube. That dual-core CPU with Qualcomm's new GPU is doing a very good job here with the demands of flash playback. And the Sensation also has T-Mobile TV, which is basically Mobi TV. It's a pretty good service for $10 a month that gives you a lot of streaming TV shows and stuff. And it's on pretty much all of T-Mobile's 4G Android phones now. So we'll just pick something here. We've started our trial. Now we're watching something from the ABC mobile channel, which looks quite good. And it sounds pretty loud too.
I'm not a wine guy. I don't want to build the brand.
Definitely good. And we'll take a look at some locally stored video as well. We have a 1080 video clip. One of the Jason Bourne movies. The same clip that brought the Acer Iconia tab to his knees plays just fine on this. Plays wonderfully. In fact, we're going to show you it doing the same thing, the HDMI out to a 1080p TV. A lot of quick cuts in here, so you can see that it's holding up in terms of frame rates. Limp sync, not always perfect, but pretty close.
Station forward. Toughest target you've ever tracked. He's really good at staying alive. You tried to kill him and failing.
And next we'll look at that, playing out to an HD TV. And now we've got the Sensation 4G plugged into our HD TV. It's a 1080p 42-inch TV. As you can see, it's doing display mirroring. There's no control panel setting. There's a notification up top, which you can see right here, that tells you you're plugged into HDMI, in case you didn't notice that, oddly enough. But you really can't change any other settings. So you can see everything on screen here just as if you were using the phone directly. And we're going to go ahead and play the 1080p video again. So it does both HDMI video and audio out. And the quality is really very sharp. Some phones we plugged in, it really didn't look much better than 480p, even though most of them should be supporting 480 and 720. And this really is looking like this must be 1080 out. Really nice. And the phone's not even breaking a sweat and not getting hot. How are data speeds on this phone? Well, it's nominally a 4G phone by T-Mobile standards, and so far we're actually getting the best download speeds we've gotten yet, according to speedtest.net, with a pretty mediocre signal around 99 dB or so, which is maybe 2 bars. We've been getting as fast as 9 megs down and 3 megs up, which is quite good. It's better than my Nexus S, which is not a 4G phone, clearly, and it's also a bit better than I've been seeing on the LG G2X. I'm impressed with that. Unfortunately, we're going to test this more, but we've been trying with a couple of laptops, and it says the mobile Wi-Fi hotspot feature, and we have not been getting good speeds with the mobile Wi-Fi hotspot. We're getting like 1 meg down, which is certainly not good at all. So we're going to do some further testing on that to see what's up with that. Call quality is very good on it. It's clear, it's sharp, volume is good, a little bit better than average maybe. Outgoing quality is definitely better because of the noise-canceling mics, and voice is full. Incoming voice sounds good. It doesn't sound super full. The bass isn't really rich, but it's very clear, and I had no trouble understanding anybody who was calling. So definitely a thumbs up for call quality. So that's the HTC Sensation 4G. It's going to be available on June 15th at T-Mobile stores, maybe a couple of days earlier at select Walmart stores of all places. It's $199 after rebates with a 2-year contract. Retail price is $550. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Visit our website to read the full review.